Welcome to this video where we'll be taking a look at Community Report 66 for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. Before we get started, I just want to say that this report does not cover anything to do with waste management. In fact, it focuses totally on the new biomes provided by the Deluxe DLC, which will be delivered sometime in the future. So that out of the way, let's just get stuck in and see what the devs have got to say. It says, greetings, dear comrades of the Soviet Republic. After a couple of weeks, we have another report for you. And the goal of these is to show you something we are working on and give you insight into the development process. Sometimes we are working on things under the hood, and it may be very difficult to show you in pictures what we have done, and also descriptions in words may be very complicated. Because of that, it may look like we do not focus on things that we are mentioning in previous reports, despite having our focus still set on them. So do not worry if this report will not be about the waste management, because it does not mean that we do not work on that. This report will conclude the information about the future Deluxe DLC, which will give you different environments. In the last report, we showed you the desert environment, and in this, we want to show you the features, the other two, and the other two being jungle and cold, I suppose. And we've got a couple of pictures here. So what I'm going to do is just read down the paragraphs for the jungle environment, then we'll take a look at the pictures. First of them is the Asian environment. That will be a lot of jungle and mountains and hills, and also with lowlands. Main difference is climate. There'll be no winter as we know, but there will be a rainy season with lower temperatures. This environment may be a bit easier to play based on that, because you will not need to invest so much in heating fuel to sustain your population. So effectively, it looks very much like this DLC is going to focus on biome changes. And we'll just take a quick look at the pictures. It is definitely a bit mountainous. That could be an interesting challenge. I like the trees. I hope there's going to be a bit more to it than just the temperature change, because they did hint a little bit about crop fertility, although that was mainly related to desert. So yeah, I'm quite impressed with that picture. Let's have a look at this. Obviously, this is going to be a town. Looks like we've got some kind of Asian looking kind of small buildings here, and we got this kind of town nestled in amongst the trees. I'm liking this, but I must admit the Asian jungle type effect isn't something that really grabs me. Uh, we've got a little bit of a temple there with a stupa in the middle. Uh, yeah, and we got a kind of wooden bridge over the river there. And of course, we got this water here. Now, the one thing that concerns me about this, the fact the rainy season, is whether this will only be enabled if you've got the day-night cycle on, which will make it quite difficult to make a series on in the jungle from a YouTube perspective. I mean, because let's face it, if you're going to play in the Asian environment, you need to experience the rain. So what I'm going to do is move down now. What I'll do is I'll read all the text, and then again we'll come back and take a look at the pictures. So the other one will be a Siberian environment. This may be one most people are interested in, because it will bring extra challenge due to the climate difficulty. And you guess it right, the winter period will be longer and colder, which will create harsh conditions for farming, as you have a minimal time to sow your fields and then harvest them in time. Besides that, you will have to deal with an extra investment into heating. Now that's quite interesting. See what the bottom bit says. All environments will be available as populated or non-populated maps, and we hope that you like the general idea behind this. There's no need to worry about wasting time and effort on something that the game does not need. To implement these changes will make the graphical content for all climates is less complicated than to develop the whole waste management system. The main point is that we have a good idea. It is easier to implement it immediately than to put it on the list and then do it later, especially if we need something where we can show you in the reports, because most of the people would not be excited about the development issues if we deal with them while dealing with the complicated mechanics. Yeah, I must admit, it is a very difficult thing. I mean, I know from my own personal experience, for when I developed software, it used to get that slightly embarrassing thing that someone would come along and say, "What's a progress report?" And you say, "Well, we've been working on code for the last 2 weeks." "Well, can you show us?" And you kind of you show them the code you've been working on, and you can see their eyes glazing over, because they don't know what they're looking at. It is quite difficult to explain in words. I mean, if you're talking to someone else who's working on the project, you've got a common base. But yeah, it is. I do sympathise with the devs about producing reports like this. kind of telling someone that you've written 1,000 lines of code and it's sort of scattered across these sections is meaningless unless you're really involved in the development process. Anyway, let's just take a look at the pictures. Looks like we've got some kind of what would you call those, conifer type trees? They look a bit bigger than the buildings, but obviously this is obviously a small settlement in the Arctic. I must admit, I do like the water going out through the background there. And then we got another one here. I think this is the same settlement, maybe from a slightly different angle. I like the fact that the mountains look slightly white as well in the background. Must admit, I wouldn't mind a bit more variety with the rock textures. Maybe that will come. This is obviously winter now, probably the same settlement in winter. And I must admit, I am a bit intrigued about what the length of the growing season is. I'm assuming that that will be, say, that maybe you won't be able to start sowing until, say, April, May, and the growing season may be the same length as it is now, but it could mean that you may not start being able to harvest until about middle of August. And then what you'll get then is only a very short harvesting season. So instead of being able to harvest all the way into almost December, you may only be able to harvest, say, to the end of October. What that will mean is that we're going to have to probably use smaller fields, actually, come to think of it. Because what you're going to be looking at is a shorter sowing period and a shorter growing period and a shorter harvesting period. So maybe the solution to this will be medium fields rather than large fields. But of course, that's just pure speculation. We'll have to wait for the DLC to come out, and then we will give it a go. And one thing I can guarantee is when this DLC comes out, I certainly will be taking a look at it. And we'll just take a look at the last picture here. This is a kind of close up of some of the buildings. It's quite interesting because hopefully these are vanilla buildings, so that will actually give you a bit of a theme to the process. Right, we're just going to move down to the last paragraph. Now, this is mainly aimed at people who've got AMD graphics cards. And it says, AMD graphic cards issue flashing buildings, then freezing frame. Speaking about development issues, we finally started to deal with the unpleasant issue among some AMD graphics card owners, especially the 6000 series deal with. We purchased the graphics card and installed it in one of our PCs and finally reproduced the issue. Already we have just checking out what is going on and to prevent this issue. We believe to deliver the fix next week on the test branch. For now, it seems that it's just some combination of small error in code, which on most drivers handle without issue, but on the latest AMD drivers with their graphics cards, stay tuned for updates on which this. Meanwhile, if you have 6000 or 7000 series of AMD Radeon graphics cards, check this thread for the workaround. And there's a link here. So if you've got an AMD card and you want to find a fix, what I suggest is you load the community report. The link will be down in the video description. And then what you can do is go to the community report and get this link, and it will take you to a discussion group. And then finally it says, and this is all we have for this report. Have fun, enjoy life, and stay tuned for the next report. So yeah, very short report. Obviously, it's nothing to do with the waste management system. We're just going to probably have to wait a couple of weeks before we get more details on that, but that's to be expected. I'm sure that once they got into the mechanics, their life is getting a little bit more complicated. And I'll be honest, of the three environments, I'd probably want to do the Siberian environment. That sounds like a very interesting challenge. Very curious about the fact that we're getting the extra heating. That means I wonder whether the actual heating capacity and the chilling effect may mean that you're going to have more heating for a corresponding area of a city. But I think this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. Any comments, observations, feel free to chuck it in the video and we'll have a chat about it. But until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.